So let's take a little bit of a look at empty groups. Different table style presentations are here, so obviously we can filter out looking at groups. But one key part here is looking at these empty groups, and you can even see in our environment we've got just tons of groups that are completely empty in our environment. These are great ways to very quickly use our action module capability that I'll talk a little bit more after this about how to reach out to the managers of these groups and basically validate that the groups are no longer existing, confirm that they don't have any membership, and that you can start purging, disabling, and moving these things to temporary OUs as a storage container during your cleanup campaign. So phasing things out obviously always makes people a little uncomfortable to go directly to deletion of items, but disabling these objects, moving them to a temporary OU so that you can keep track of what's been marked for deletion, and having a phased out time where you actually go back and start to purge out the objects from Active Directory overall. So we'll do a little bit of a deeper dive in looking at the distribution. This chart here is really illustrating the makeup and the distribution of different size groups. You can imagine the XY scatter chart or the area chart that we've chosen to use here, saying I've got a handful of groups that have very large membership, and then you can see as the effective membership changes over time, you can see where spikes of populations are occurring. You know, I shouldn't have a whole lot of groups that have very large memberships, and those are things that you want to keep your eye on for looking at how many groups have very large memberships in the environment, and start to clean down and look at the redundancy of very large groups, because you're going to have a lot of overlap of the users within those very large groups. Also digging into the department codes. So where are groups associated with different departments? And this is going to be a key part of the workflow is, you know, who do you reach out to take ownership? All of the people that are on the call today are most likely heavily aligned with the Active Directory operational group. And like most application areas, your primary concern is keeping the service up and running, keeping it available for validating logon so people can get onto the environment, validate their passwords, look up group memberships. That's the key part. But the reality of it is all of the objects that are stored within AD are really owned by all the different departments out there, all the different managers. They all have a vested interest. So, you know, we'll call them the data custodians or the data stewards. You know, those are the people that have the vested interest that have asked you to put these objects into AD over time, whether it's the process of HR, of onboarding new users, or really adding new groups to slice and dice how you do provisioning for new and different applications that are constantly coming online. So tying things back to the department codes is going to say, you know, which departments are heavily using groups in their environment. And you're not going to want to see any one group too heavily off on that distribution.
And just to pause there real quick as well, it's an important aspect of our overall offering. In this particular case, we're doing a correlation based upon department, but keep in mind that in your environment, it may make more sense to make other correlations, and you have the ability to do so within our analysis engine and the AD inventory that we pulled for you very easily to create different views on the data according to different delineations and correlations that you want to make.
Great, thanks, Adam. So we're taking a little bit of a look at some of the exceptions, you know, and these are, you know, just really highlighting some of the problematic things that occur in environments. So circular nesting, you know, it creates problems for different applications where the effective membership needs to be enumerated. It's also, you know, a sign of poor management of groups where a parent group has several groups nested within it, and at some point, one of the nested groups ends up introducing one of the parent groups back into the mix, and you end up with basically a circular nesting situation. Key indicator of obviously where some cleanup needs to happen in the organization of groups. Addressing these things is going to streamline applications and prevent any issues from these groups being tied to assets in your environment. We talked about token bloat. Typically, organizations will feel the pain in the Exchange application world first, where users will make several different connections to a server, but every application within an environment, including AD itself, is prone to the problems of token bloat. And where this really occurs is every user has a token. They have their primary SID. They have any historical SIDs. If objects have been moved from different domain upgrade procedures through migrations, mergers, acquisitions, you know, people's tokens are growing based on their SID, their SID history, and every group that they're a part of, and as well, every group potentially has a SID history on it. And the average indicator there is really looking at the number of groups that a person is a part of. So we do a breakdown distribution of the group memberships, so you can very quickly see, how many people are part of larger and larger number of groups. And the smaller distributions of 0 to 10 groups, usually not problematic in any organization. 10 to 20, again, is not usually a problem in organizations. When you start pushing the limits where people are members of 20 to 30 groups, you're starting to reach that critical point where you need to take a scrutiny of saying, should this person really be a part of 20 or 30 different groups within the environment, or should these be the people that I want to start looking at cleaning up and scrutinizing their memberships into these different groups? You start going above and beyond 30 group memberships to 40, 50, or more. This is really where the token sizes just mathematically get out of control for today's infrastructure environments. Until organizations really make that move to true 64-bit applications, operating systems, their Active Directory environment, the problem with that is really everything needs to be upgraded to take advantage of the new 64-bit architecture, the new Microsoft platform, to get that larger token that Microsoft always says, I'll never need any more memory, I'll never need a larger token size. But in essence, organizations are really pushing the boundaries, especially when the number of employees and number of groups starts getting up into the hundreds of thousands. These things quickly get out of control. So continuing with this and looking at basically the memberships. So we talked about the membership distribution, large groups that are in environments, about looking at the effective membership counts in different groups. And we do a distribution again on the different ranges in people's environments so that you know how many groups are in what range. Now, one key thing that we're going to talk about is stale users. So this has all been really heavily about group cleanups, but it really starts with the users in your environment. So users grow stale over time as well, and if you don't have a good deprovisioning process, stale users will be out there. Obviously, cleaning up and culling and get rid of the stale users in your environment is going to put groups longer aligned into having duplicate memberships, whether it's duplicate direct membership or duplicate effective membership. So a first part is really looking at how many groups that are out there that have users that haven't logged into my environment in a really long time. By cleaning up and purging these, again, is going to help feed the process of identifying redundant groups and cleaning these things up in the environment. Last thing we'll talk about here before I move on to some redundant groups and go back to the slide to wrap it up for questions is really looking at the trends. So how are things changing over time? So we talked about the snapshot in time of where we are. These charts really are here to indicate how am I trending and cleaning up these group memberships and getting users out of these memberships in 30 or 40 groups over time. How am I progressing as I launch these cleanup campaigns? I start reaching out to managers to clean up these groups and get rid of the memberships. How am I progressing? So lastly, we'll go ahead over and talk very briefly about redundant groups. So this is the idea of doing the matchup, the deep dive, and the analysis of looking at the similarity of groups. So the first thing you want to start is how many groups do I have out there that have the exact same direct membership? This is going to be groups that really are a waste because they have the same effective membership and the same direct membership. Tying any of these groups, here in our environment, we've got 39 groups that have duplicate direct memberships. So if I get rid of, half of those, I've significantly reduced the amount of groups I need to manage overall, and I've streamlined my application and my process. Then the next thing is really looking at effective membership, and this is basically the combination of all of those direct memberships. By different combinations, you can still achieve the same exact effective membership by having different direct membership within groups. So again, this is really scrutinizing. Groups have formed for many different reasons, but weird groups have the exact same membership within them. Again, regardless of what group's been nested, you can start to clean up these groups as well. And again, even if I was to take 10% of these groups that have this overlap, I've significantly reduced the amount of groups I need to manage in the environment. And then we continue to look down, 90%, 95% identical, 90% identical, 85% identical. These are the numbers that are going to change as we start to get rid of stale users in the environment, purge them from the group memberships. You're going to see these things go from groups that are 80% aligned, start creeping their way up into 90 and 95%, if not identical. And again, those are the buckets that we want to start to focus on reducing is the identical groups, either from a direct or effective membership. And again, we want to take a look at keeping and tracking and trending these things over time so that we know, are we making progress with the amount of groups that we're starting to reduce, and are we getting rid of these things in the environment? So we'll go ahead and go back to the presentation. We're going to wrap it up and then open up to any conversations, any questions that are coming up. So we really hit step 3 and 4 in there about reaching out to the managers in the environment. The Stealth Audit Management Platform, again, allows you with that integrated capability to reach out to data custodians, these object stewards, the managers in the environment, to solicit their feedback. This is the only way you can reach out to large audiences or groups to solicit feedback on things. And then the action modules are there to really take their authorization, their insight, put things in motion, and go make those changes within your Active Directory environment.
Thanks, Chris. So at this point, before I give you some final thoughts here, if you do have any questions, please take this opportunity now to type them into the GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar rather question dialog box, or raise your hand and I will address those questions promptly. However, what I wanted to just mention to you all is that if you like what you've seen today and want to take it to the next level, if you already have the product installed, or you're already a customer or whatnot, just let your associated account representative know, and they'll align you with one of our engineers or get you over the job sets and whatnot. If you haven't had any exposure to the product before and you want to take it to a step of perhaps doing a deeper level dive through another presentation with your team, we could do that. We'd love to do that. Additionally, if you have time to hop on any of our pre-scheduled webinars, you can always learn more about this through those webinars as well. So it does look like we have one question here. However, it may not be, as the hand has been raised for quite some time. Any questions out there? All right. Doesn't look like there's anybody that has any specific questions, which is fine. We're taking you right to the top of our time here with you. So we very much appreciate your time and attention today. We'd love to work with you, so please just reach out to us and let us know your thoughts and what you'd like to do next. Additionally, we are going to be sending you out a survey regarding today's call. We greatly appreciate your time in answering three very quick questions for us, basically around what you thought of the presentation today, what you thought of the functionality that we've demonstrated, and additionally, your thoughts on what you perhaps would like to see in the product moving forward, whether it's aligned to this very subject or anything else within the Active Directory or the Microsoft infrastructure and application management stack. So thank you so much again for your time and attention. We'll look forward to working with each of you. Take care. Bye-bye.